Over the past year, I've discovered that my approach to design is physical, creating 2D and 3D outcomes from various materials such as cardboard and more recently paper. Creating 3D models has been something that I've dipped in and out of over the past couple of years. It originally stemmed from creating a cardboard map of my local village in college. I then spent a lot of time creating digitally, up until recently when I started looking at more physical and tactile design. This semester, I discovered that I really enjoyed working with paper, a material that is so versatile and accessible with so many properties and has endless opportunities to create with. Therefore, this film essay will be about paper art and the process of making, the creation of paper art itself, how outcomes can be developed from these and perhaps why it's chosen over digital, looking at a range of different physical and paper artists as well as paper art in situ of various contexts, as well as referring back to my work and how this research has influenced my practice. In my studio work this semester, I have created a range of different paper art models. Because I wanted to explore paper art, my project consists of a series of short and quick briefs, looking at a whole range of different themes. I started off by looking at cars, creating a series off of these, including the classic Land Rover Defender, the American Ford Bronco, and the Mini Cooper. When you create and look at these, you instantly think of everything associated with it, and to me the Mini Cooper is one of these. It's a classic car, but it's not just a car. It itself and Mini are iconic and is associated with films such as The Italian Job and even Mr. Bean. I've also a subculture of the mods. When in discussion of these car models, something that came up was the aesthetic of them, the term uncanny valley. This is when a human appearance or behaviour can make an artificial figure seem more familiar for views, but only up to a point. How they look so lifelike and perfect to our picture memory, but something just doesn't seem quite right and feels odd. That's when you realise that they are a model of something much bigger and real. It has the characteristics and detail of the real thing at a glance, but once you look closer, it becomes apparent it isn't. This is when you get an insight on how scale also affects this. When you have the actual model in front of you, it is apparent it's a model. However, when I developed this particular piece, the first process on from the model making was photographing the model. When looking at the photograph separately from the model and on screen, the depth of focus of the camera affects your view of it. You become unaware of the size and scale of it. It gives you a false perspective and almost optical illusion. You can't tell for certain the actual size of it. Is it a small model or is it full size? Especially when photographing a neutral background with nothing to size it by for comparison, the photography of it tricks you. Both of these I found quite effective and vital in the development of my making process. My Land Rover model has developed on from being a model and has become the subject in a piece of stop motion advertising. This is the video I created. This video reiterates the effect of false perspective of paper models. The process offers an optical illusion. It makes you question what you are seeing. Paper models can be used effectively, and I've become very aware of them since making them myself. They can develop on to become a range of different outcomes such as installations, editorial, advertisements, and even television intros. Very recently, I started watching a series on Netflix called Hollington Drive. The intro to this series caught my eye. I couldn't tell initially, however when I rewatched it I noticed it was created using paper models. They created the town used in the series from paper and shot a range of different sequences from different aspects of the town and compiled them to make this intro. The intro again looked so realistic until you noticed it wasn't. The way this was photographed had a helping hand in this. Lex Hag, who were VFX on the project, said that they designed a camera system to shoot the slow creeping shots through the miniature town. Creatively, the challenge was to create an atmosphere using a combination of smoke and steam. In addition, we lit the model's set using remote-controlled miniature high-output LED lights. They have taken the atmospheric context of the series and added it to the atmosphere of Paper Town intro to create a very effective and eerie sequence. I think this is an example of the way it's easier to create a vision physically sometimes than to create it digitally. On reflection of the paper town, something I wanted to look at was architecture in paper cities. However, I wanted to create something a little bit different from the landmarks you see again and again, like that of Big Ben for London or the Golden Gate Bridge for San Francisco. One of the ideas which arose was to create a short series of buildings from famous films or TV shows around the world. Something a little different from the obvious, however something people may still recognise. I've jotted down some quick ideas off the top of my head that have a big part in these films or TV shows and are the location basis of them. Some of them I came up with were the Travel Book Company shop from Notting Hill, the house from Home Alone, Gruber's Antiques from Paddington 2, and the Rosebud Motel from Schitt's Creek. As you create them, you really start to get an understanding of why some of the imagery is the way it is. For example, the Home Alone house. Its characteristics reflect the film, how it's a big and scary looking house, and in the film, the inventions that the main character Kevin makes for the robbers are vast on scale, and the idea of this being scary emphasises it. Throughout this project, I have been looking at a range of different research. One artist that I discovered through this research was Hattie Newman. She was one of the first paper artists I discovered. I found her through Instagram. She has and continues to create some amazing pieces for many brands and projects. Some of my favourite projects of hers include that for Gas Networks Ireland, ITV, Transport for London, and the Olympic Park. Another artist whose work really stands out to me is Wes Anderson and the models he uses in his films. For example, Fantastic Mr. Fox. Overall, the production team used 535 puppets while filming the adaptation of Roald Dahl's book. For Mr. Fox alone, there were over 102 puppets of different sizes, each sporting a different style for the character. Most baffling for the animators and puppet makers alike was Anderson's insistence on naivety. He didn't want his film to look as slick as, say, The Corpse Bride or Coraline, which are so smooth as to look computer animated. He instead wanted viewers to notice and embrace the medium of stop motion itself, which had enchanted him as a child, especially in holiday shorts such as Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. The jerkiness didn't bother him. On the contrary, he sought it out. He chose to shoot on twos, which means that the frame is doubled so that there are effectively 12 frames per second instead of the more fluid 24. CGI was only used in the scene in which the Flint mine flooded.
Cider.
One aspect I like about the making process is the human input element, that you can tell it's been thought over and every detail matters to the design and the designer. However, this can sometimes cause human error. For example, Annie Atkins, when she was graphic designer for Wes Anderson's The Grand Budapest Hotel, she revealed that she had inadvertently spelled patisserie with 2 T's. Each of the boxes that has been shot up to that point had to be fixed in post-production. Throughout this, I've had some projects that didn't go as well as planned, but I've also had some projects that I've been really happy with the end results, such as miscellaneous food items. I think for me, the making process is physically creating, but then developing digitally, like the way I've been working the last 2 semesters, creating a physical piece, but then thinking about what it could become next digitally, whether that be, for example, a piece of stop-motion moving image, static image, or advertisement. I like Wes Anderson's approach and how he feels about not wanting everything to look too slick. I want my paper models to be paper models and look like them and be a little bit quirky. I want to embrace the process and let it show through my work every detail and the work that goes into making them. So for me, the making process is the most important part of my practice and my ideas.